Story number 1. Whispers of the Past, a tale from suburban Texas, 2001. The pale moonlight bathed the decrepit museum as my colleague, Lisa, and I pulled up. I'm Kara, a journalist with a penchant for uncovering mysteries. Lisa, my childhood friend and fellow journalist, sat beside me. Her usually sparkling eyes were shadowed with both anticipation and fear. Sheriff Bradley had invited us after a string of unexplained phenomena in the village, all somehow linked to this museum. Joining our team were Tom, an experienced historian, and Sarah, a local librarian. Both in their late 40s, they had known the museum longer than anyone else and had seen its transition from a vibrant place to an eerie relic. From the outside, the museum was a looming fortress, its tall spires casting long shadows on the ground. As we entered, an unsettling cold breeze caressed us. The walls seemed alive, almost pulsating, and there was an inexplicable hum in the air. Over the years, Tom began, this place has seen many odd events. People hearing whispers, items relocating themselves, and shadows darting across the walls. Sarah chimed in, the locals avoid this place. Rumor has it that the souls of the disappeared still roam these corridors. While Tom and Sarah were sharing stories, Lisa and I were already setting up our equipment. Cameras, voice recorders, and the like. As the hours rolled on, things went from eerie to downright terrifying. A vase toppled on its own, and we captured ghostly figures on film. At one point, an unknown creature, perhaps a wild animal, dashed past us. Panicking, we scattered. Lisa and I found ourselves in an unfamiliar, abandoned part of the museum. Our torches revealed a small chamber, its walls lined with newspaper clippings and journal entries. As we skimmed through, we discovered records of horrific experiments conducted right in this building. Human subjects, cruel procedures, and torturous outcomes. The dates matched the timeline of the numerous disappearances around the village. This museum was not just a display of history, it was the very site of its darkest events. I felt a tug at my sleeve. Lisa, face pale, pointed at the corner of the room. A pile of antique dolls sat there, their glassy eyes seemingly following our every move. I could swear I heard soft, melancholic cries emanating from them. Later, regrouped with Tom and Sarah, we delved further into the museum's history. Together, we pieced together a tale of a once prosperous village turned sinister. Greedy town leaders, inhumane experiments, and countless lost souls. Dawn was breaking when we finally left the museum. Our souls heavy with the weight of truths we unearthed. As we drove away, I couldn't help but look back one last time. The museum, a silent sentinel, stood as a reminder of the horrors of the past. Years have passed, but that night remains etched in my memory. It was a chilling testament to the fact that history, especially the kind shrouded in darkness, has a way of lingering, making its presence felt. Whispers of the past never truly fade, they just wait for someone to listen. Story number 2. Echoes of Despair, a haunting from suburban New York, 2002. I'll never forget that night. It was 2002 when my friends and I, all possessing a certain psychic sensitivity, were beckoned to a quiet village on the outskirts of New York. The mayor, desperate to find answers to the bizarre occurrences at the village's old museum, called upon us. I am Ava, a psychic specializing in communicating with the departed. My closest friends, Mia and Zoe, are both talented in sensing and deciphering spiritual energy. Our journey began with an ominous aura. The moon, full and piercing, cast a pale glow upon the museum, making it seem like a gargantuan specter in itself. Joining us were Samuel, an archaeologist, and Eleanor, a professor of local folklore. Their expertise was invaluable in understanding the history and significance of the artifacts inside. As Mia, Zoe, and I set foot inside the museum, we immediately felt an overwhelming rush of emotions. Despair, anger, sorrow, they flooded our senses. The walls felt as if they were breathing, alive with tales of horror and anguish. Our equipment began registering abnormal levels of spiritual activity. The deeper we ventured, the more intense the experiences. Objects relocated themselves. Unearthly voices whispered our names, and ghostly apparitions made fleeting appearances in our photographs. It wasn't long before Zoe, usually the bravest among us, was taken aback by a sudden gust of cold wind. Just as she tried to communicate with the entity responsible, a wild creature dashed across our path. Panic took over. Our frantic escape led Mia and me to an ancient part of the museum. It was a chamber untouched by time. Scattered across a dust-laden table were old documents and photographs. We discovered that years ago, twisted minds had conducted sickening experiments in this very place. The unwilling subjects? Innocent townsfolk who had disappeared without a trace. Their anguished spirits, it seemed, were trapped within the confines of the museum. Eleanor and Samuel, having traced us to the chamber, were equally horrified. Eleanor's vast knowledge pointed to the link between the experiments and ancient dark rituals from local legends. Determined to uncover more, we followed the haunting cries to a room filled with lifelike statues. Their eyes, carved with such precision, seemed to shift, tracking our every move. It was Mia who sensed it first. These statues were once living souls, transformed and imprisoned for eternity. Our mission became clear. We needed to free these souls. The five of us, using our combined skills, held a seance. We reached out to the trapped spirits, offering solace and a chance to move on. It was a long, perilous night, filled with tears, screams, and moments of doubt. But as dawn broke, an eerie calm settled. The spirits, finally free from their torment, left behind an empty, silent museum. As I reflect on that night, I realize that history is often more twisted and dark than it seems on the surface. But it also taught me that with determination, even the most tormented souls can find peace. The museum stands still, no longer a place of horror, but a testament to our indomitable spirit. Story number 3. The Forgotten Halls, a sinister tale from suburbia, Los Angeles, 2003. I remember the call vividly. The sun was setting and a chill ran down my spine as I listened to the deputy mayor's nervous voice. My name is Alex, and along with my fellow trainee officers, Lila, Tasha, and Naomi, we had been called to a secluded village on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Our task was simple: investigate the old museum, which had been the focal point of numerous complaints. I can't deny the knot in my stomach as we approached the museum. Its looming presence felt almost suffocating. As we parked, the moonlight only intensified the building's eerie silhouette. We equipped ourselves with torches, cameras, and voice recorders, and entered what felt like a time capsule. From the onset, the museum refused to stay silent. Objects would shift in the shadows, whispers caressed our ears, and photographs revealed more than we were prepared for. As rookie officers, we were trained for threats of the living, but not of the supernatural. Our exploration led us deeper into the winding hallways, where we met Dr. Harrison, an anthropologist, and Miss Claire, a renowned medium. Both were around 50 and had been drawn to the museum for its peculiar history and tales of hauntings. As we all delved further into the mysteries of the museum, an enormous bat-like creature darted before us. Startled, Naomi and Lila sprinted down an unknown corridor, with Tasha and I trailing behind. But a sudden stumble left us injured and separated from them. Regrouping with Dr. Harrison and Miss Claire, we found ourselves in a hidden chamber laden with documents. They unveiled horrific tales of experiments carried out in the name of dark arts and science gone astray. The museum was not just a keeper of antiques, but also of tormented souls, victims of gruesome experiments that led to their tragic deaths. The chilling discovery made us even more determined to find our lost colleagues. Guided by the faint cries echoing through the museum, we found ourselves in a gallery adorned with antique portrait paintings. The eyes in the paintings seemed alive, their gazes tracking our every move, and the sensation was unbearable. Claire, sensing the trapped souls, revealed that these paintings might hold the key to the ongoing paranormal activities. Combining our collective knowledge and skills, we conducted a ritual to free the spirits trapped in the museum. The night was filled with cries, wails, and a cacophony of voices yearning for release. It was an arduous task, but by dawn, the oppressive atmosphere had lifted. Upon exiting the museum, we found Lila and Naomi outside, equally shaken but unharmed. The village, once plagued by the museum's dark history, began to heal in the days that followed. Though years have passed, the memories remain fresh. That night was a testament to our resilience and the indomitable human spirit. We entered as trainees and left with experiences that no training could ever provide. The museum remains, no longer a chamber of horrors, but a silent guardian of the past's secrets. Story number 4. Eyes That See, Memories from a San Francisco Suburb, 2004. I often find myself drifting back to that fateful summer night in 2004, when the lines between reality and the supernatural blurred, forever changing my perception of the world. My name is Emily, and my dear friend and fellow journalist, Grace, and I were on the trail of a new story. The sheriff of a quiet village in the San Francisco suburbs invited us to investigate an old museum, which had been the epicenter of eerie occurrences. Arriving under a blanket of stars, the museum appeared to be a giant, bathed in an ethereal glow. Armed with our cameras and recorders, Grace and I stepped into a world where the very air seemed saturated with stories from the past. The corridors seemed to come alive as we wandered deeper. Objects shifted mysteriously, and unsettling whispers made us question our sanity. Our photos revealed figures that weren't there moments before, each with a tale of despair etched on their spectral faces. Our expedition was not solitary. Jonathan, a seasoned archaeologist, and Sophia, a spiritual healer, had also been drawn to the museum's enigmatic pull. Both were in their late 40s, with experiences that gave depth to our quest. The vastness of the museum played tricks on us. As we navigated a maze of rooms, a shadowy creature darted across our path. Panic took over, driving Grace and me to flee. In our haste, we became separated from our group, finding ourselves amidst relics from another era. It was in this forgotten chamber that we discovered old, yellow documents detailing unspeakable experiments. Desperate souls had been subjected to torturous procedures, forever binding them to the museum. Their tragic tales gave clarity to the restless spirits we encountered. Reuniting with Jonathan and Sophia, we pieced together the museum's dark legacy. It was linked to the unexplained disappearances from the village. The souls trapped in the museum cried out for closure. Drawn by mournful sobs, we entered a room filled with antique dolls. Their glassy eyes seemed to move, tracking us with a haunting intensity. Sophia, sensing the trapped spirits within, revealed that these dolls were the last earthly remnants of some of the victims. Determined to give the spirits peace, we conducted a seance, combining our collective energies to bridge the gap between the living and the departed. As dawn approached, the oppressive air lifted, signaling the spirits' release. I left the museum with a heavy heart and a story that would remain untold. Some mysteries, after all, are better left in the shadows. To this day, the museum stands as a somber reminder of the tragedies it witnessed. But for me, it's a testament to our courage and the everlasting bond between Grace, Jonathan, Sophia, and myself. A night when we dared to listen to the whispers of the past and made a difference. Story number 5. Whispers of the Lost, an eerie recollection from a Miami suburb, 2005. The balmy Miami air did little to ease the foreboding that settled over me as I approached the old museum in 2005. My name is Isabella, and the mysterious tales of a quiet village had lured both my friends and fellow psychics, Lucy and Alara, and me into an adventure that none of us had anticipated. Invited by the mayor, our purpose was to unravel the mysteries surrounding the museum that stood as an eerily majestic sentinel, bathed in the haunting glow of moonlight. Our senses were always a tad sharper than most, picking up energies and spirits that others couldn't perceive. We weren't alone in our quest. Vincent, a seasoned historian, and Dr. Evelyn, an expert in paranormal phenomena, joined our exploration. Both in their early 50s, their knowledge was essential in understanding the deep-rooted history of the artifacts and the building. I still remember how the floors creaked and echoed with whispers from the past, revealing stories of horror and despair. Objects seemed to relocate on their own accord, and the photos we took were plagued with ghostly apparitions. But nothing prepared us for the encounter with a wild, shadowy creature that darted across our path. Panic set in, causing us to scatter in all directions. In my fright, I tripped, feeling a sharp pain shoot up my leg. Lucy and Alara, though shaken, helped me to a hidden section of the museum. This forgotten chamber was a trove of old documents and records. The more we delved into them, the clearer the horrifying truth became. There had been chilling experiments, sanctioned in secrecy, and they had taken place right within these walls. The souls of those who had been subjected to these experiments were trapped, doomed to roam the museum for eternity. As we pieced together this haunting puzzle, Lucy, Alara, and I felt the intense energies of the spirits reaching out, yearning for release. The museum's lore was intertwined with the unexplained disappearances from the village, making the connection all too clear. Led by soft, melancholic cries, we stumbled upon a room filled with antique statues. The statues, eerily lifelike, had eyes that followed our every move. It felt as if the very souls we sought to free were trapped within these stone figures. With the combined knowledge and psychic abilities of our group, we conducted a ritual, hoping to set the tormented spirits free. The night was filled with spectral voices and visions, and the intensity of the experience was both harrowing and humbling. As dawn broke, a serene calm descended upon the museum. The restless spirits had found their peace. And we, having faced our fears and the unknown, emerged stronger and more connected than ever. That summer night in 2005 remains etched in my memory. The museum still stands, silent and enigmatic, but no longer a prison for lost souls. Instead, it stands as a testament to our journey into the unknown and our commitment to righting the wrongs of the past. Story number 6. The Shadows of Suburbia, an eerie recollection from Orlando, 2006. The humid Orlando air still lingers in my memories, as do the haunting shadows that danced across the old museum in that secluded village. My name is Sarah, and in 2006, along with my fellow police trainees, Rebecca, Leah, and Danielle, we set out on a journey that would forever haunt our dreams. The deputy mayor's hushed voice over the phone still rings in my ears. With a hint of trepidation, he'd spoken of the old museum and its sinister reputation. Curiosity and a sense of duty propelled us forward, and soon we found ourselves standing in front of the museum. Bathed in moonlight, the structure seemed to pulsate with a life of its own. Entering with caution, we were greeted by the echoing silence, only occasionally interrupted by the creaking of the old wooden floor. The walls, however, seemed alive, reverberating with whispered tales of pain and sorrow. Our investigation led us to cross paths with Thomas, an architect in his early 50s, and Marina, a folklore expert. Their insights painted a clearer picture of the museum's history, and together, we hoped to unravel its mysteries. Exploring the winding corridors, a sudden flurry of wings startled us. A creature, silhouetted against the dim light, darted before us. Panic-stricken, Leah and Danielle veered off, while Rebecca and I stumbled, sustaining minor injuries. The sheer vastness of the museum soon separated us. Amidst the confusion, Thomas, Marina, and I discovered a concealed chamber, laden with old documents. Reading through, a gruesome tale unfolded. Forbidden experiments, driven by dark desires, had claimed innocent lives. Their souls, it appeared, were bound to the museum, perpetually reliving their torment. As we delved further, a melancholic cry led us to an opulent room adorned with antique portrait paintings. There was something unsettling about those portraits. The eyes seemed to move, watching our every step, filled with an unspeakable sadness. With Marina's expertise and our shared determination, we held a vigil, hoping to communicate with the spirits. The atmosphere grew thick with tension as spectral voices whispered their agonies, revealing the twisted events that had taken place within these walls. By dawn, we had pieced together the tragic events and had facilitated the release of countless trapped souls. The museum's oppressive aura had lifted, replaced with a somber tranquility. When we regrouped outside, Leah and Danielle had tales of their own, equally haunting, equally poignant. That day remains an indelible mark on my soul. The museum stands silent, no longer a haunting ground, but a solemn testament to the souls that once roamed its halls. And as I reflect upon that summer of 2006, I am reminded of the resilience of the human spirit and the depths of darkness it can overcome. We entered the museum as mere trainees, but left with a profound understanding of life, death, and the gray spaces in between. Story number 7. Echoes from the Past, A Dark Night in the Las Vegas Suburbs, 2007. A year etched into my soul, where the past collided with the present, and memories of that fateful assignment still haunt me. My name is Claire, and this is my recollection. Mara, my closest colleague, and I received an invitation from the sheriff of a remote village near the Las Vegas suburbs. Whispered tales of an old museum, a place where history seemed twisted and dark, had reached us, and our journalistic instincts could not resist the pull. As we approached the museum, the stark moonlight cast an eerie pallor on the building. With cameras in hand, we stepped into the hallowed halls, feeling a sudden chill in the desert night. The deeper we ventured, the more the museum began revealing its secrets. Objects rattled mysteriously, and voices from the past echoed, sending shivers down our spines. Photographs we took were marred by spectral images, faces twisted in agony and despair. During our exploration, we crossed paths with Dr. Raymond, an expert in ancient artifacts, and Lydia, a renowned spiritualist. Both had been drawn to the museum, seeking answers to its mysteries. But the maze-like architecture of the museum had plans of its own. As we wandered, a sudden rustling sound preceded the fleeting sight of a wild, shadowy creature. Panic took over, and we found ourselves separated. Mara and I stumbled upon a forgotten chamber, its walls lined with documents that hinted at macabre experiments from a time long past. The horrors of these experiments had bound the souls of the victims to the museum. Reuniting with Dr. Raymond and Lydia, we learned of the museum's tragic connection to a series of disappearances in the village. Together, we set out to uncover the full extent of the tragedy and provide closure for the restless spirits. Drawn by heart-wrenching cries, We entered a dimly lit room filled with antique dolls. The dolls, strangely lifelike, had eyes that seemed to watch our every move. Lydia, sensitive to spiritual energies, felt that the spirits of the disappeared were tied to these dolls, eternally reliving their trauma. With a combination of Dr. Raymond's knowledge and Lydia's spiritual insights, we conducted a ceremony to release the trapped souls. The experience was overwhelming, as waves of emotion, pain, relief, gratitude, washed over us. By dawn, the oppressive aura of the museum had lifted, replaced with an atmosphere of peace. The museum remains a testament to that night in 2007, where the lines between the past and the present blurred. Although the world moved on, Mara, Dr. Raymond, Lydia, and I share an unspoken bond, a connection formed in the face of darkness, a testament to our resilience and the human spirit. Story number 8. Island Echoes, My Haunting Memories from Honolulu Suburbia, 2008. The year 2008 often resurfaces in my dreams, pulling me back into the heart of an enigma that forever changed my life. I am Jade, and the chilling embrace of that year is a memory I can never escape. The salty air of Honolulu Suburbia was tinged with an energy of foreboding as Naomi, Tessa, and I arrived in a forgotten village. Our psychic sensitivities had been summoned by the mayor, pulling us towards an old museum rumored to be the epicenter of inexplicable events. The museum, a looming structure, greeted us in cold moonlight. With our psychic equipment set, we ventured in, anticipating the stories the past would share. But nothing could prepare us for the oppressive atmosphere that met us. Each room seemed to whisper tales of horror, and it wasn't long before our equipment picked up paranormal activity. Our exploration took an unexpected turn when we encountered Michael, an archaeologist, and Sophia, a local historian. Both in their late 40s, they had been researching the museum's dark history, piecing together its chilling narrative. As we delved deeper, a wild creature, something otherworldly, suddenly darted across our path. Panic ensued. Naomi, Tessa, and I scattered, our senses overwhelmed. In our escape, I twisted my ankle and found myself in an unexplored section of the museum. This secluded part of the museum was a treasure trove of haunting revelations. Stacks of documents, aged and brittle, detailed sinister experiments that had claimed the lives of many villagers. These experiments, fueled by dark ambitions, had trapped the souls of their victims within the museum's confines. When Naomi, Tessa, Michael, and Sophia regrouped with me, we pieced together a story of despair and tragedy. The museum was not just a keeper of artifacts, but of tormented souls, their cries echoing across time. Guided by these sorrowful cries, we found ourselves in a chamber adorned with ornate statues. Their eyes seemed alive, brimming with emotions of the past. Sophia's research revealed that these statues were crafted in the likenesses of villagers who had mysteriously vanished. Determined to put an end to the anguish, we combined our psychic abilities and historical knowledge. That night, we held a ritual to free the trapped souls, allowing them to find the peace that had eluded them for so long. As dawn painted the sky, the weight of the museum's horrors seemed to dissipate, replaced with an aura of serenity. Years have passed since that fateful night in 2008, but the memories remain vivid. The museum still stands in Honolulu Suburbia, a silent guardian of its secrets. But for Naomi, Tessa, Michael, Sophia, and me, it stands as a testament to our shared journey into the abyss of the unknown, and the power of unity in the face of darkness. Story number 9. Shadows of the Capitol, My Haunting Memories of 2009. In the suburbs of Washington, D.C., there lies a story I've tried hard to forget. But each time the calendar nears 2009, my mind travels back to that chilling chapter of my life. My name is Lila, and this is my tale. Amber and I, fresh from the police academy, were brimming with youthful enthusiasm. When the deputy mayor extended an invitation to inspect a peculiar old museum in a neighboring village, we accepted it as a chance to prove our mettle. Driving under the cover of darkness, the museum's silhouette, bathed in the pale moonlight, stood imposingly, hiding secrets we were yet to unearth. Armed with our police equipment, we embarked on our quest to uncover its mysteries. But nothing had prepared us for what lay inside. The corridors felt alive, moving objects, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere, and photos we took that captured eerie apparitions. As we navigated deeper into the heart of the museum, we encountered Anthony, an experienced archaeologist, and Elise, a folklore researcher. Both were in their early 50s and had been drawn to the museum, haunted by tales of its grim past. The night took a sinister turn when, while navigating the hallways, a shadowy, winged entity darted across our path. Panic-stricken, we scattered in different directions, and in the ensuing chaos, I collided with a display, injuring my arm. Soon, we found ourselves in an isolated section of the museum, untouched by time. The walls here concealed morbid details of experiments, grotesque in nature, that had been conducted on innocent souls. The echoes of their torment seemed to resonate in the very air we breathed. Pooling our collective knowledge, we began to piece together the grim story. It was clear that the museum was more than just a storehouse of artifacts. It was a prison for anguished spirits, bound by the atrocities committed upon them. Guided by disembodied sobs, we reached a room adorned with ornate portrait paintings. Their eyes, so full of pain and despair, seemed to move, silently pleading for release. The pieces of the puzzle finally fell into place. The museum was ground zero for a series of unsolved disappearances that had plagued the city. The souls of the disappeared were trapped, their anguish immortalized in the portraits. With a sense of purpose, we held a makeshift seance, using our training and Elise's knowledge of folklore to guide the restless spirits toward the light. As dawn broke, the museum felt different, devoid of the ominous weight that had earlier consumed it. Though a decade has passed, the memories of that night remain fresh in my mind. The museum stands as a silent testament to our ordeal, a place where history, pain, and redemption intertwined. Amber, Anthony, Elise, and I are forever bound by that night, a night that blurred the line between the living and the dead. Story number 10. Echoes from the Windy City, my terrifying journey in 2010. The rustling of old newspaper clippings takes me back to the cold winter of 2010. I'm Jane, a journalist with an insatiable curiosity. Alongside my friend and colleague, Emma, we found ourselves in the Chicago suburbs, drawn into an investigation that would shake our very core. Sheriff Hargrove had invited us, having been an avid reader of our pieces. He believed our investigative prowess could shed light on the unsettling events surrounding an old museum in his quiet village. That same museum had been a topic of hushed whispers among locals, stories of haunting specters and chilling screams. I remember the chill that ran down my spine as we approached the museum, its ominous silhouette intensified by the pale moonlight. With our recording equipment at the ready, we stepped into the echoing silence, unaware of the malevolent stories the walls would soon share. We weren't alone on this endeavor. We were joined by two seasoned investigators, Robert, a meticulous historian aged 48, and Clara, a fearless paranormal investigator, who had just turned 50. Their expertise seemed to promise a night of revelations. But the museum had its own plans. Objects shifted when our backs were turned, disembodied voices whispered incoherent words, and our cameras captured phantoms that our eyes could not see. In the dim corridors, a silhouette darted across our path. It looked like a wild animal, but disappeared too quickly to be identified. Panic ensued, and in the chaos, I tripped, injuring my ankle. Limping, we found ourselves in an untouched part of the museum, where the air felt heavier, saturated with sorrow. Our combined efforts led us to a concealed room, where the truth unraveled. Dust-covered documents detailed horrifying experiments, so cruel it's a wonder humanity could devise them. This unholy research had claimed many innocent lives, trapping their souls within the museum's confines. We connected the dots. Numerous disappearances in the city were linked to the museum. Victims lured with promises, only to meet a tragic end. The culmination of our exploration was a room filled to the brim with antique dolls, each eerily lifelike. Their glass eyes followed our every move, and we soon understood why. The dolls were vessels, containing remnants of the tortured souls. Their silent cries echoed in our ears, a reminder of their agonizing past. With the truth unveiled, our duty was clear. Clara conducted a ritual to free the trapped souls, allowing them a chance at eternal rest. The experience left an indelible mark on all of us. Emma and I penned our experiences, letting the world know of the horrors that took place in a forgotten corner of Chicago. Robert and Clara continued their respective quests, armed with the knowledge we had uncovered. It's been years since that fateful night, but the memories remain, as vivid as the day they were etched into my mind. The haunted museum stands as a dark testament to the past, reminding us that some secrets are best left buried. Story number 11. Whispers of Boston, the museum's haunting secrets from 2011. It's been a decade since the horrors of that night, yet the memories still linger, as fresh as the cold Boston air. I am Sarah, a psychic, sensitive to energies and entities from beyond. Along with my dear friend, Lily, another gifted soul, we set off on a path that was destined to alter our lives forever. It began with an invitation from Mayor Harrison, who had heard of our unique abilities and believed we could help with an unsettling mystery plaguing a small village on the outskirts of Boston. Curiosity, mingled with the promise of adventure, lured us to this silent hamlet. Our car's headlights sliced through the night, illuminating the facade of the old museum, casting it in an eerie, ghostly light. The sense of foreboding was palpable, but with resolve, we stepped in, our tools and intuition at the ready. Within the museum, the weight of the past pressed heavily upon us. Shadows seemed to have voices, floors creaked with unseen presences, and the chilling breeze hinted at tales of woe. With every step, we felt the increasing tug of restless spirits. In our exploration, we were joined by David, a well-read historian of 50, and Elise, a tenacious investigator just 2 years his junior. Their expertise provided context to the supernatural events unfolding before us. But fate had its own plans. In a dimly lit hallway, a silhouette, otherworldly and swift, raced past us. Panic surged, and as I tried to flee, I tripped, the pain from the fall echoing the terror in my heart. It was here that we discovered the entrance to a secluded section of the museum, untouched by time. This forgotten wing whispered secrets. Documents, old and brittle, spoke of sinister experiments, of souls wronged and trapped, resulting in a haunting that spanned generations. A puzzle was forming, linking the museum with several disappearances in the town, all bearing the museum's dark mark. In the depths, a room beckoned us. Inside, statues of cold stone stood, their eyes alive, following our every movement, echoing the sorrowful cries we heard. We realized these statues were the last memories of those who had perished, their souls imprisoned within. Our combined efforts, fueled by urgency, led to a night of rituals and resolutions. Lily, harnessing our psychic energies, performed a seance, seeking to communicate and ultimately free the trapped spirits. The night ended with a mix of relief and sorrow. We had uncovered the truth, laying the tortured souls to rest. The village could finally breathe easy, the museum's curse lifted. But for me, the memories remain. Each time I close my eyes, I'm transported back to that night in Boston's outskirts, where history, horror, and hope intertwined. The experience changed me, a grim reminder that some mysteries are best left alone, and some memories never fade. Story number 12. Echoes from Philadelphia, unveiling the museum's darkness from 2012. It's hard to believe that it's been over a decade since the chilling winter of 2012, but every detail of that dreadful night remains seared into my memory. My name is Claire, and at that time, I was a young police trainee eager to prove myself. Together with my fellow trainee and close friend, Natalie, we were thrust into an investigation that defied all logic and reason. It started with an invitation from Deputy Mayor Thompson. The task? Investigate the increasingly disturbing reports surrounding an old museum in a secluded village on the outskirts of Philadelphia. As we approached the museum, its silhouette, dark against the bright moon, seemed to be warning us away. But with youthful zeal, we dismissed our gut feelings and went in. The museum was like a crypt, every echo resonating with tales of despair. We weren't alone in our exploration. We were joined by Marcus, an experienced detective of 49, and Eleanor, an archaeologist with a keen interest in the macabre, who was 53. As we delved deeper, the museum seemed to come alive. Pictures captured shadowy figures, and whispers filled the air. Our unease grew as we moved from room to room, feeling watched, but by whom or what, we didn't know. An unexpected encounter intensified our fears. As we turned a corner, a ghostly apparition dashed past us. It was swift, almost like a creature with wings. Startled, Natalie and I stumbled, the shock of the fall amplifying our growing dread. But this mishap led us to an off-limits section of the museum, hidden from the public eye. This concealed chamber revealed dark secrets. Scattered documents told tales of horrific experiments that sought to bridge the realms of the living and the dead. The terrible cost? Innocent souls, their anguish trapped within the museum's walls. Further investigation unveiled a sinister connection. People had disappeared over the years, and every trail led back to this accursed museum. As we pieced the puzzle together, we found ourselves in a room adorned with antique portrait paintings. The crying we'd been hearing seemed to emanate from this very room. And as we looked around, the eyes in those paintings seemed to follow our every move, each portrait a silent witness to the museum's nefarious past. With the combined efforts of our group, we began a series of rituals aimed at freeing the trapped spirits. The night was long, filled with spectral confrontations and eerie occurrences. But as dawn approached, the museum's oppressive atmosphere began to lift. Reflecting on that night, it's clear that our intervention brought solace to many tormented souls. However, the horrors we encountered forever changed us, reminding us that some places, no matter how alluring, hold secrets better left undiscovered. Even now, as I walk the streets of Philadelphia, the chilling echoes from that night serve as a stark reminder of the thin line between our world and the one beyond. Story number 13. Shadows of Dallas, unraveling the haunted museum of 2013. I still remember the biting chill of that fateful winter of 2013, a year etched permanently in my memories. My name is Eliza, and back then, my best friend Jenna and I had just started making a name for ourselves as investigative journalists. Our adventure-seeking souls were always eager for a thrilling story, and fate presented us with an opportunity we couldn't resist. Sheriff Wyatt, a stoic figure of authority in his late 40s, had contacted us with a peculiar story about an old museum situated in a village on the fringes of Dallas. Arriving there, the imposing structure of the museum stood bathed in silvery moonlight, almost as if the moon itself was cautioning us about the looming shadows within. With cameras, voice recorders, and a sense of bravado, we entered the museum. But with every step, it felt like the very walls whispered tales of agony and despair. But we weren't alone. Accompanying us were Howard, an experienced historian, and Lydia, an expert in paranormal activities, both in their late 40s, and equally intrigued by the museum's reputation. As we delved deeper, the museum seemed to defy the very laws of reality. Photos revealed shadowy outlines, disembodied whispers filled the cold air, and the temperature seemed to drop with every passing moment. Our group could feel the weight of countless unseen eyes watching us. The true horror began when an unearthly howl shattered the silence. As we turned, the fleeting shadow of a wild creature caused Jenna and me to stumble, crashing painfully against the cold floor. That accident led us to a concealed section of the museum, where time itself seemed to stand still. Within this forgotten chamber, we uncovered the museum's gruesome past. Tattered documents detailed grotesque experiments that had tried to capture the essence of death. The outcome? Restless spirits, forever bound to the confines of this cursed place. Our research led us to a sinister realization. Over the years, several people had vanished without a trace, each disappearance linked to the museum. As the pieces of this grim puzzle fell into place, the mournful wails of spirits led us to a room adorned with antique dolls, their glassy eyes filled with silent screams and tears, reflecting centuries of anguish. With the combined expertise of our group, we embarked on a mission to free these tormented souls. A night that felt like an eternity was filled with supernatural confrontations and chilling discoveries. The sun's first rays marked the end of our harrowing experience. Though we had managed to put many spirits to rest, the trauma of that night lingers on. Whenever Jenna and I reminisce about that chilling winter, we're reminded of the fine line separating curiosity and peril, and how some secrets are better left buried in the shadows. Story number 14. Echoes from Phoenix's Past, the Museum of Lost Souls. As the Arizona sun set on a hot day in 2014, I, Amelia, along with my close friend, Clara, were driving to the village just outside Phoenix. Being gifted psychics, we had always been attuned to the whispers of the unseen. Mayor Roberts, a tall, stoic figure in his early 50s, had reached out, requesting our expertise concerning an old museum located in the heart of the village. The museum, an architectural relic from another era, appeared in stark contrast against the purple twilight. Both Clara and I felt a shiver down our spines as we walked up to the entrance. Accompanying us were Nathaniel, an experienced archaeologist in his early 50s, and Sophia, a talented medium aged 30, both equally curious about the mysteries that lay within. The dark halls of the museum echoed with hushed murmurs of forgotten tragedies. We began experiencing unnerving events, fleeting apparitions in mirrors, shifting silhouettes in old photographs, and the haunting lullaby of distant cries. Our explorations took a terrifying turn when a shadowy figure darted across our path. Panic surged as Clara and I sprinted through a maze of exhibits, getting separated from Nathaniel and Sophia. Our flight led us to a hidden room, untouched by time, its existence seemingly wiped from all records. Within the room, we found yellowed papers that bore testimonies of horrifying experiments aimed at breaching the veil between life and death. As we pieced together the grim history, it became apparent that these actions had birthed restless spirits, forever trapped within the museum's walls. The very souls we were encountering. Clara and I, with our psychic senses tingling, felt drawn towards a chamber filled with stone statues. The statues, representing various emotions, seemed eerily lifelike. Their eyes betrayed anguish, as if they had witnessed unspeakable horrors. The haunting cries we heard seemed to emanate from this very room. Reuniting with Nathaniel and Sophia, we began a collective effort to uncover the truth. The village's dark secret unraveled. Decades ago, several villagers had gone missing, and each disappearance was linked to the museum. The restless spirits were the lost souls, seeking redemption and release. With Sophia's guidance, Clara and I channeled our psychic energies to communicate with the trapped spirits, aiming to free them from their eternal torment. The night culminated in a powerful seance, where we called upon the spirits to share their stories, to let go of their anguish, and find peace. The first light of dawn saw the museum transformed. The oppressive air lifted, replaced by a somber tranquility. Our mission was complete, but the weight of the museum's history would forever haunt our memories. Now, years later, as I reminisce about that fateful expedition, I realize that sometimes the most haunting ghosts are the secrets of our past. Story number 15. Whispers of San Diego's Shadows. It was a humid evening in 2015 when I, Officer Emma, alongside my colleague Officer Jade, found ourselves on a narrow road leading to a quaint village in the suburbs of San Diego. The village itself was like a snapshot from a different era, untouched by modern conveniences. As we drove closer, the looming structure of the museum became visible, its silhouette etched against the darkening skies. The invitation had come directly from Deputy Mayor Richards, a dignified gentleman in his early 50s. With him was Dr. Leonard, a historian in his early 50s, whose insatiable curiosity about the village's past was the reason we were all here. Eager to understand the mysteries hidden within the museum's walls, Jade and I stepped inside, our torches revealing glimpses of the past. As minutes turned into hours, the museum came alive, its tales of sorrow and darkness revealing themselves. Portrait paintings stared, eerie whispers danced through the hallways, and ghostly apparitions seemed to flit in the periphery of our vision. While we were engrossed in deciphering an old map, a shadowed creature swooped down from above, its swift flight causing us to scatter in different directions. In our panic, Jade and I lost our bearings and found ourselves in a section of the museum that seemed untouched by time. It was in this secluded area that we stumbled upon a trove of disturbing documents. Detailed within were records of horrific experiments, all in a desperate bid to merge the worlds of the living and the dead. Each experiment had its victim, many of whom were the very spirits now haunting the museum's corridors. As the night grew darker, the tension became palpable. With the help of Dr. Leonard and an experienced paranormal investigator named Evelyn, aged 52, we sought to piece together the dark history of the village. Our discoveries led us to understand that many villagers had vanished without a trace, all last seen near the museum. Our search for answers took a spine-chilling turn when we were drawn to a room filled with antique portrait paintings. Each painting seemed to come alive, the eyes following our every move, echoing the anguish of souls trapped between worlds. Guided by our determination and the skills of our diverse team, we conducted a series of seances. We connected with the restless spirits, promising them justice and eternal rest. Their tales of woe, betrayal, and dark experiments were heart-wrenching. As dawn approached, a newfound peace settled over the museum. The restless spirits seemed calmer, their haunting cries now replaced by whispers of gratitude. Even now, years later, as I recall that unforgettable night, the memories remain vivid. The events of that evening serve as a reminder that sometimes, the darkest stories lie hidden in the most unexpected places.